one man's peace is another man's nightmare, really. So it depends on the individual.
I believe peace is an underlying attitude that we have, that no matter what circumstance we're in, and no matter what kind of things are going on around us, that we know, like we know that God is in control. I guess that's my definition of peace.
All right, I think lots of us believe that peace means the absence of war, or the absence of terror, or the absence of something that's harmful to us. But I suppose for me personally, I think peace is a deeper sense of well-being, a sense of being in harmony with what's happening right around, not only relationally, but with our environment, you know, and just with everything else that's going on. There's just a deep sense of well-being, or peace, wholeness, no sickness, no disease, yeah.
The peacemakers are those who will follow him. Peacemakers are different to peacekeepers. Peacemakers are people who are prepared to go out there and look at the situation and maybe make some changes that are not right until Jesus' words and Jesus' commandments are fulfilled.
Oh, I think they're people that aren't afraid of a little bit of conflict, that will look at conflict, look at people and be brave enough to be truthful but in a loving way, to make peace happen in people's lives. It's not just being peaceful and beautiful and it's to make people stirred and create in people the peace that Jesus wants in them, and sometimes that comes with conflict.
I don't know, it seems like in the context of maybe where they were, there was kind of like this zealot movement that's wanting to overthrow empire, but then Jesus' movement was quite radical, like socially and whatever else, but at the same time was peaceful.
The people who are out there speaking truth to power. So that power might be a so-called evil regime in a part of the world, but I think it's also people who are holding these so-called leaders of the free world and the free market to account.
A peacemaker, wow, that's an interesting term. Peacemaker would be someone who makes peace, wouldn't it? So someone who is able to bring some sort of harmony in the chaos of our world.
Those people that actually probably go out and actually make a difference to other people's lives, that help, yeah.
A peacemaker is someone who makes the world peaceful. He doesn't fight the forces. Like, I'm not going to go up to all these evil pricks and fight them. I mean, that doesn't do anything.
To be a peacemaker involves helping with reconciliation, with trying not to stir things up, and to bring factioning parties together to talk.
The guy who stood in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square when those tanks were rolling through in the protests in China, and we all know those images and those pictures. And what I love about that is that in the non-violence workshops I do, we call him Tank Guy or Tank Dude, is that he stood out there with his shopping bag and he just walked out in the face of all these tanks rolling through, the empire saying, don't you even bother trying to change things, this is the way things have always been. And he stood out in front and just said, I can't let this go on. Unarmed guy with plastic bags, you know. And one of my favorite retellings of that story, to my friend Jared McKenna would say, is that before the tank, driver of the tank he opened his hatch and came out from the tank, and before he could even speak to the guy who stood in front of his tank, he's about to open his mouth and, you know, all of these things about to come out. The guy stood in front of the tank, says, what are you doing, to the tank driver? And that's what it takes, I think, is that total turning of the tables. To go, no, I am not going against the grain because I am standing up against this military superpower. I am actually working with the grain of everything that stands for peace.
I suppose we all sort of think of people like Mother Teresa, don't we? The people that are out there giving it all up to serve those that are hurting and dirty and dying. So that would be my understanding, people who are ready to lay down what they have for those that don't have. What would it take? It would take a life transformation, wouldn't it, really, to let go of my selfish motivations and what I'm trying to bring into my world, and probably lay that down and look out for others, do things for others to make their lives better.
Once I get myself fixed up, then I can help other people get themselves fixed up.
I really try to be. I've been a peacekeeper all my life because that's my personality type. I just like everybody to be happy. But I come to a realisation that that's not going to work often, and so I try to be a peacemaker. I still find it a little difficult to confront people when they need to be confronted. But I really work at being a peacemaker. And like Carol, I think that if we really work on our internal peace, then that has the effect of bringing peace in the situation that where we are.
We mix up pacifism to do with peacemaking, to do with, we mix that up and think that being pacifists means being passive and doing nothing. And I think that's a myth. And that in order to be peacemakers, we have to be actively, you could almost say, instead of waging war, we need to be waging peace. We need to be kind of preemptive peacemakers, if you will, not just waiting for these situations of disaster to come to go, oh no, we need to sort this out, we need to chill out, we need peace. We need to be kind of going out there and trying to make peace first before things mess up.
I know with my life, I have to keep thinking of grace, and that the peace that God has for me, I have to work on it, because sometimes I get ruffled and upset, and I think, well, why am I doing that? Because He has given me peace, and where is it? I've got to search for it, and that's the thing that the conflict in me and in other people that we've got to work out.
A peacemaker, yeah, I'd like to try to be. One of my heroes, Daniel Berrigan, said that the reason we don't have peace in a wider context in our world is because we only want it with half a heart. So I think I'm probably still guilty of that, that if we really want peace, there's a lot of sacrifice that has to be made. But I would like to see myself as someone who is striving to be a peacemaker, yeah, but failing regularly.
I don't think we will. I don't think we're going to see that. I think there's too much conflict in the world. There's too many power struggles between, governments and nations, and the fight for oil and the fight for everything else that goes on. I find it hard to believe that we could ever see peace in our lifetime.
I don't know. I'm not a politician. But I think if they all got together and put all their differences aside and thought about people, we all bleed the same colour no matter where we're from or our circumstances. If people remember we're all human and God made all of us, I think that would be a good turning point in making the world a better place.
Being faithful to the Lord and being bold in our actions, and hopefully through that process, that the Lord will use us, really.
That peace is not necessarily the absence of conflict. Peace is an underlying attitude that we can maintain through knowing the grace of God, and through being anxious for nothing, but in everything, guarding our heart with the peace of God that passes all understanding. I believe that individually we can do that, and if as individuals we have peace, well then our community is going to have peace.